We cannot stand up for workers. We cannot just demand better wages. We cannot only ensure safe workplaces. What's a safe workplace if we can't have people speak about justice in Palestine? What's a safe workplace if we can't have people talk about their child and how they identify? These are intimately linked.
Could you please introduce yourself, who you are, why you're here today?
My name is Fred Hahn. I'm the president of CUPE Ontario and a general vice president of CUPE National. I'm here because Sarah Jama is reopening her office as an independent MPP in Hamilton Centre. Sarah was a CUPE member. She comes from our union. We've supported her for some time, and her courage and bravery is important. Her voice is so important, and so we're quite honored to be here, to be able to see her reopen as an independent and continue the important work she's doing for the people of Hamilton Centre.
The Ontario NDP leader, Mairead Stiles, she actually said that they were not expelling Sarah Jama from the party because of her comments, but because she acted unilaterally. Do you think that MPPs should be able to speak their minds without the go-ahead of party leadership?
I think there is, parties have policies that are set by their members. There are democratic reasons why those things are important. Alongside that is the importance of not silencing activists, in the NDP in particular. It's important to understand that we often recruit people who are activists, who have been social justice warriors in their own right long before they were elected to sit in Parliament. And there has to be a mechanism where our party can be clear about what our policy is, and where when people who have been elected actually have roots that go beyond that policy, they're still able to speak. In fact, what happened in this situation is not that Sarah said anything that went beyond the policy of our party. It's quite clear from the federal level that we've been asking for a ceasefire for some time, and in fact, the provincial party is trying to get that word out as well. It's not landing because everybody is, having a challenge trying to believe that that's actually what what the NDP's party policy is. It is, in fact. And so this is an opportunity. As much of a challenge as this is, as difficult and problematic and hurtful as the last few weeks have been, it is also an opportunity to strengthen the democratic foundations of the NDP. And that's what I, as a party member, am going to do my very best to try to see happen.
I noticed you were at the ceasefire rally on Sunday. On the topic of strengthening the NDP and Labour in general, maybe you could speak for a moment to the importance of solidarity between the Labour movement and marginalized communities.
Well, in particular, on Sunday, there was a massive rally in the call for a ceasefire. A coalition of more than 300 organizations have come together to call for an immediate ceasefire, to call on the federal government to actually do that, and to stop arms sales to Israel, and to end the kind of diplomatic immunity that happens with the state of Israel. Our union, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, is only one of several unions that has signed on to that, alongside many other organizations, Muslim, Jewish, community-based organizations. So it's incredibly powerful and important to be there. But as a trade unionist, it's also important to know that Palestinian trade unions on October the 16th put out an urgent call to all of their comrades across the globe and to people of good conscience to say that we needed to act. It's not just good enough to send solidarity messages, that we must act. Our union passed an emergency resolution at a national convention by a large majority that called on us to, again, call for a ceasefire of the federal government, to call for the stoppage of any arms sales to Israel, the end of diplomatic immunity. But it also called on us to do education with our members about the history of the conflict between Israel and Palestine, about the very nature of the Israeli state, which is an apartheid state, the impact that has on the daily lives of Palestinians, the ways in which there's been violations of international law for decades. And so we're off to do that work inside our union. But trade unionists around the globe, from the United States to the UK, to Australia, to Italy, to Japan, there are trade unionists around the globe who are passing resolutions, pushing their governments, blockading shipments so that ships cannot leave harbors, actually shutting down munitions factories. And that's not just happening in other countries. In Ottawa, in Toronto, in many places in Canada. In fact, just last Friday, 200 trade unionists and community members shut down a munitions factory that operates in Toronto that sells arms to Israel. Working people are coming together to express their solidarity. We are building that strength in our communities and inside our unions, because unions are movements for social justice. This is actually about social justice when we talk about the plight of Palestine.
Okay, thank you so much. If you'd like, maybe you could speak a little to your own personal relationship to the events of the last month. You've come under some controversy. There were some calls for you to apologize, and more than that. How have you handled the accusations, the discourse in general? How has it affected you?
Well, I have to say I was initially quite shocked. I have been honored to be in the role that I'm in, the president of the largest public sector union in the province for more than a decade. I have, I believe, quite a strong track record of defending workers' rights, of holding governments to account, of standing up for human rights issues and against all forms of hate. And so I was initially quite shocked that anyone would imagine that I would in any way support violence or hate. That said, we are in very challenging times, not just here in Ontario, not just across Canada, but around the globe. The right is ascendant. People's views of these kinds of matters have been skewed and changed. The goalposts have been moved so far. What I am most grateful for is that I am from a large, progressive, militant union, and while there were those inside my own union who were also thinking that perhaps I had gone too far, the members of my union reminded me that this is not new for us. In Ontario, in CUPE, we passed a resolution in favor of a global movement of boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the apartheid state of Israel in 2006. We have long-standing policy on global justice, long-standing policy against Islamophobia, against anti-Semitism, against transphobia, which is quite frankly where this stuff first started when our union took a strong stand to defend trans youth. And so, these are all parts of that is important, because we cannot stand up for workers. We cannot just demand better wages. We cannot only ensure safe workplaces. What's a safe workplace if we can't have people speak about justice in Palestine? What's a safe workplace if we can't have people talk about their child and how they identify? These are intimately linked as trade unionists, and so while it's been challenging, it's also been a very important reminder of the work that is left to do inside our unions, inside our communities, because as we push for justice, that work is not easy work, but it is important.
Thank you so much. One last question, if you're okay with that. What do you think are the biggest challenges going forward for CUPE with Israel and Gaza and in general?
Well, I think that certainly on the international stage, there is so much happening. Gaza is the most primary, the most urgent example. I think ensuring that we can speak with and talk to and hear from our members, because the truth of the matter is that we're not hearing the truth from much of the media in Canada. It is enormously skewed. This has been demonstrated time and again by lots of organizations that have been evaluating what we're hearing about struggles in Palestine, about the reality of the way in which the State of Israel operates. This connects to many other issues around the globe, and it connects intimately to the challenges that our members face. Look, like other working people, our members are finding it harder and harder to make ends meet. They're finding it harder and harder to be able to afford rent, to be able to even imagine buying a house. Many of our members who work in communities like Hamilton can't afford to live in communities like Hamilton. There was a terrible report this morning that says in the city of Toronto, 1 in 10 people in that city, 1 in 10 people in the city of Toronto rely on food banks, and that 60% of those relying on food banks have post-secondary education. So a bunch of the things we've been told, get a university degree and you're going to be fine. Just get a job, you'll be fine. Rely on your politicians, rely on your media to tell you the truth, you're going to be fine. These are things that we need to actually speak with one another about, challenge one another about, because we'll not be able to have justice for our members who work in social service agencies, in hospitals, who work for cities and towns like Hamilton. We won't be able to find justice for our members unless we have a really comprehensive way of looking at what working people face here and around the globe.